I'm actually going to steal one of your comments. I'm a moderator for a VBAC group, and we see a lot of people who really want to have a vaginal birth. It's their goal. They want to work towards it. And you had mentioned walking, and every single one of them, go walking, and it's not going to change hormones. Thank you. That's a huge takeaway for me to be able to comment with that to some of our members who are, they're very desperate to have that vaginal birth and they want the experience.
Yeah. And a lot of times people don't have C-sections because of lack of hormones, right? There's might be some anatomy issues going on, right, between mom and baby. I think that we need to respect surgical birth. You know, I mean, I work in a level 4 hospital. We have all kinds, and we do VBACs there too, right? But they need to be monitored very, very closely, right? You need to find out, why did you have that original C-section, you know? So yeah, they can be done, but they're a much higher risk, and you need to be in a completely safe environment, and home is not that environment.
Exactly. I know that a lot of the people who are wanting to walk, they want to start labor because they know that their doctor can induce them the same way, and they need to go into labor by a certain time. And it's just, they really put the pressure on themselves. And it could be time that they can use to kind of get used to the idea of there may not turn out how I'm thinking it's going to turn out, or I can come up with my plan for how I'm going to take care of myself while I have a newborn and I'm recovering from surgery. There's a lot that can be said for, you know, putting all your eggs in one basket and all your energy towards a plan that may or may not work out.
One of the things that is very common with lost families is that the community that supported the birth that they chose, whether it be birth centers or midwives, doulas, crunchy people, they tend to vanish after you lose your baby. Sometimes worse happens. So what was your experience with that?
No, I stayed very active in that community because I was part of that community. That's what I was sharing before. I had started out as a birth doula, and then I ended up being a midwifery student with the midwife that allowed my daughter to die. I maintained that relationship for a number of years, and it wasn't till nursing school where that relationship didn't sever. We never severed. It just faded away. So no, I didn't experience that like the other moms in this forum have experienced, because I was deep in it, very deep in it. So yeah, so that didn't happen to me.
Is this the first time you've spoken out about your midwife?
Publicly, yes.
Yeah.
Took 16 years. It took over 8 years till I admitted that she allowed her to die. And then she heard that I was talking a little bit, and she sent me a letter saying I was bitter about her, and I just have blocked her. I don't know if she even knows where I live anymore, which I'm grateful for. We do still live in the same community. If she wanted to find me, she probably could. For many years, I didn't even go to the grocery store. My husband did all the grocery shopping, but I have changed so much physically. Till this video, she probably wouldn't even recognize me. So yeah, but now she might recognize me. So for many years, I wouldn't go out in public, like, because I didn't want to run into her. So having masks on in this pandemic, and the fact that I've changed so much physically, she wouldn't recognize me if she saw me. People don't recognize me all the time now.
And I want to say, because they probably don't know, the ladies on here probably don't know what the transition is, but you worked hard, and you've done awesome. Like all the stuff, like she's really like transformed and worked on her body and stuff like that. Like, yeah, I see pictures every so often on Facebook. Like, this is where I was 7 years ago. This is where I am now. And I'm like, that's awesome. Yeah. It's like, that's inspired. Like, people should be inspired by that, because we don't see it all the time. And that's really great to see. Like,
well, it's part of the healing, right? It's part of the healing. I carried all that weight for a reason. Like, It's emotional. It's, it's trauma. I've done a lot. And I wasn't even ready to speak about this trauma until now. I've told Danielle many years, like, I want to say it, but I'm so scared. I was scared. I don't even know what I was scared of. I mean, I'm still a little scared. I woke up this morning when I had body aches and I was like, all right, I just got to get on the treadmill and run because I hurt. Because trauma is not only like, that's one thing I learned when Alexa died. Emotional pain causes physical pain. Let me say that again. Your emotional pain will manifest physically in your body. I learned that with her. That empty arms feeling is emotional pain manifested physically, right? And we have to heal our emotional pain to transform physically. And that's what I have been working so hard on in the last 2 years, is to heal my emotional pain so that I can change physically. You change the brain, you change the body.
Is there anything about the birth community that you think people outside it really don't understand?
It's a cult.
I mean, we understand that part.
It depends on the context of the community, like the medical community. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about it, I don't think, and I know for me when I was in it, the whole goal was to help people and to serve people. I honestly believe that. Do I honestly feel that my midwife was out there to intentionally neglect my child? Absolutely not. Do I think that she loved my child? Absolutely. Do I think that she cared about me? Absolutely. Right? Where the pain and hurt comes from for me is that was a lesson that went unlearned and it continued to happen. And instead of making change within the community to make it safer, they ignore it, right? They ignore it. There is no due process. So like when a baby dies on our unit, okay, a resuscitation doesn't work, something happens, we debrief and we debrief and we debrief. What went wrong? Could we have done something different? What could have provided a better outcome? If we couldn't have saved this baby, what is something that we may have missed, right? Did this code go perfectly to resuscitation standards, right? We discuss it more than one time, not just one time, right? When you go to midwife review, it's all about, oh, you did a good job. There's nothing you can do. It's a variation of normal. There's no real true learning. There's no evidence-based practice. And
There's just no learning.
It's a lot of gaslighting and a lot of blowing smoke up each other's asses that you're doing amazing things for people. Okay? Which is true. I don't want to, like I said, I felt loved, I felt supported, I felt nurtured, I felt cared for, I felt mentored, okay? What was lacking was the accountability to the failure, right? That's what is lacking, the accountability to the failure that has allowed to continue to be happening, right? It didn't stop with Alexa, it didn't stop with Gavin, it's still happening. And I don't know how to change it other than that the medical community needs to report these providers over and over and over again. I think that's the only way it's going to change. It's not going to change by me screaming from the rooftops or Danielle screaming from the rooftops. It's got to get changed above us. And so that's why whenever we have a train wreck come in, I will go and talk to those attendings and say, you have the right to report this for an investigation, right? That's what happened to your midwife. Like she got reported, right? And she was told she could no longer perform in the state of California. So she left and she still continued to do harms because it's not a federal thing. And that actually happens with physicians as well, right?
Yes.
There is no federal body that monitors physicians who make mistakes, right? I'm sure you've heard of the podcast, Dr. Death and all of that, right?
Right.
It happens. So we just have to it has to go above a state level. It needs to be a federal mandate. These rogue midwives need to be railed in. These people that, especially licensed midwives, I'm sorry, they are not educated enough. Even certified nurse midwives, they have to have so many hours, so many catches. Most of them can only work in hospitals with a hospital backup. They'll try and tell you that they have a physician backup. They don't have a physician backup. That's fine. It's just all a fallacy. And I know it. I was in it. I know it. I never saw a physician once in the birth centers that I worked at.
Well, someone asked me, how do you know a good midwife? And I said, she works with an OB. You can meet the OB, because a lot of them will tell you, I work with, and they'll say doctor, they won't say OB. The OB has local admitting privileges. The midwife has local admitting privileges. The hospitals have a good opinion of this midwife. I mean, if you tick all those boxes, the odds that you're going to get a bad midwife are very low, because
I don't want to, there's some women that are great birthers. I have attended many home births that were just awesome and perfect. Okay. Seen it, been there, done it, friends that have done it. So I don't want to say that it's all bad, but when it goes bad fast, and it goes bad hard. And I would never recommend that for any of my daughters. I don't have the answers. I don't know all the answers. I just know that when we have licensed midwives coming in and they're harming women and children, it needs to get elevated. It needs to be learned from, it needs, Gavin should have never died. Christine knew how dangerous it was for him to be so post-states just on my story alone. And she was trained by my midwife, and they continue to ignore it, right? Nobody learned anything from my daughter. And I think that's the most painful thing.